So micro teaching means this is a type of teaching, okay, a kind of a process that was developed by Dwight W. Allen in 1963 at Stanford University. Okay, so according to D.W. Allen, that is Dwight Allen, he says that micro teaching is a scaled down teaching encounter in class size and time. So this is a technique that is used to develop various types of skills in the various skills, teaching skills in the students, that is teacher trainees. Okay, so micro teaching is basically scaled down teaching encounter, that is there will be the focus will be on a single skill at a time, and then the content will be very limited and the class size is very small, and then the duration of the lesson is also very small. That means that we are focusing in micro teaching. Whenever we do this micro teaching sessions, we focus on different skills in the teaching learning process. That is, in a classroom we know that there are different skills, right from introducing the lessons to explaining, then stimulus variation. We have plenty of skills that we use in a classroom. Classroom is not all about a teacher enters and then she continuously or he continuously speaks and then she or he leaves. That's not the way how it works. We have lots of different components, different skills that are connected with each other, and all these skills need to be trained well. Okay, so we this particular thing, that is micro teaching, was developed in 1963. This focus on developing skills one by one. Okay, so then this here you can see the micro teaching cycle. Here we have planning, then teaching, that is they plan a lesson, and then they teaching, and then the feedback, that is how the session went, how good it was, or how what are the areas that the teacher trainee should focus on, that kind of things, and then replanning, then reteaching, and then re-feedback, and this process goes on and on. So that is the way, that is micro teaching cycle: planning, teaching, feedback, replanning, reteaching, re-feedback. Okay, now we can see that is the major aspect is that this is a training technique, that is this is not used in a generally used in the classrooms, in real life classroom. This focus on training the teacher trainees. Okay, now we have these phases of micro teaching. So we already saw the cycle of micro teaching. Now there are different phases. Okay, three phases of micro teaching. That is knowledge acquisition phase, that is the pre-active phase. It is also known as pre-active phase. In this phase, the trainee observe demonstration skill and analyze and discuss demonstration. So usually there will be a demonstration by a expert teacher, and then the students are observing it, and then that is knowledge acquisition phase. Okay, pre-active phase. Now skill acquisition phase is interactive phase. That means that prepare a micro teaching. In this phase we can see the students, after watching or observing this demonstration by an expert teacher, this teacher trainees, they prepare micro lesson and then practice the skill, provide feedback. Okay, that is the second phase of micro teaching. And then the last phase is transfer phase. As you know that once we attain or achieve a skill, then we can transfer this skill to actual teaching situation. So that phase is known as or called as transfer phase, that is post active phase. So we have three phases of micro teaching: knowledge acquisition phase, that is known as pre-active phase, then skill acquisition phase, interactive phase, then transfer phase, പോസ്റ്റ് ആക്റ്റീവ് ഫേസ്. അപ്പോൾ ആദ്യം ഒരു കാര്യത്തെ ഒബ്സർവ് ചെയ്യുന്നു, മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നു, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് നോളജ് അക്വിസിഷൻ. ദെൻ സ്കിൽ അക്വിസിഷൻ, they need to practice it. So prepare a micro lesson and then practice skill, and then they provide the get the feedback or whatever changes they need to do. That is the cycle of the micro teaching should be worked out in this or practiced in this phase, and then we have this transfer of the skill to actual teaching situation. So that these are the phases, 3 phases of micro teaching. Now, what are the core teaching skills? There are a huge number of skills, as we know that every single movement and moments in a classroom, in a real life classroom, demand some kind of skills from the part of a teacher. So there are some core teaching skills. That is, this is a must teaching skills a teacher should possess. Okay, these are must. That is, we cannot say that we are teachers if we don't have these kind of skills. That is, they are very important. So the skills are skill of probing questions, that is asking questions, not normal questions, but rather these are kind of questions. That is, the teachers need to get some information from the students, that is to understand the prerequisites or to set the students or to make these students ready for the lesson, that kind of things. For that, the teachers can always use the skill of probing questions. That kind of, why are we doing this, or what do you know about this, and that kind of things. Okay, so that is probing questions. Normal questioning and probing question, both are different. Normal questions, after teaching the class, we usually ask the question, that is questioning, that is another skill. But for the skill of probing questions means that the teacher always asks the students in order to engage or in order to communicate with the students and make the students interested in the class. So for that, the skill of probing question is one of the core, is considered as one of the core teaching skills. And then skill of explaining, that is the second one, is skill of explaining. Means one should be able to explain the things, that whatever they are discussing in the class, or what they are teaching in the class. That is very important. That is the skill of explain, the second one. So every teacher must has the skill of explaining in order to reach their students, that is to convey whatever they want uh, to reach their students. So they use the skill of explaining. And then the skill of illustrating with examples, as we know that every time we teach something, we always use examples in our classroom. So it's a skill, that is, we illustrate our lessons or content with some kind of examples, and that is a skill. So whenever we find a difficult situation that the students cannot understand what we mean, we can use examples. That's a kind of skill. And then stimulus variation means the class shouldn't be very monotonous. In a real life classroom, we know that we make our students to read, write, and then many other activities. So there is always a constant change. Stimulus variation happens. That is, the teacher always should possess this skill of stimulus variation. And the skill of reinforcement means that the teacher always should be able to appreciate the students, and different types of appreciations and then reinforcements are there. So all these are very important skill of reinforcement. And then skill of questioning, that means that, as I have already mentioned, the teachers in order to assess the students or evaluate the students use this skill of questioning. And another important skill is skill of using blackboard. That is, we know that in every teaching learning settings, in a classroom, blackboard is an important integral part of teaching learning activity, and it is a skill to use this blackboard. That is, and the mastery of using this blackboard is very important. So it is also considered as one of the core teaching skills. Okay, now the skill of introducing a lesson, that is the basic thing. That is, we should be able to introduce a lesson in a way that we should be able to inculcate or induce interest in our students, and we should be able to make the students focus on what they learn. Okay, So these are core teaching skills. We have 8 core teaching skills. Skills of probing questions, explaining, illustrating with examples, stimulus variation, reinforcement, questioning, using blackboard, and introducing a lesson. This is very important. There are 8 core teaching skills. Okay, and then we can see some of the uh, different types of teaching skills as listed by some of the educators, Allen and Ryan. Uh, that is Allen and Ryan, Dwight Allen and then Ryan. They were working together, and they just gave a list of teaching skills, and they were working at Stanford University. As you know that this is a birthplace of micro teaching technique. So the first one is stimulus variation, set induction, closure, teacher silence and non-verbal cues, reinforcing pupil participation, fluency in questioning, probing questioning, use of higher questions, divergent questions, recognizing and attending behavior, illustrating and use of examples, lecturing, planned repetition, completeness of communication. So all these 14 skills are listed by Allen and Ryan. Okay. And then just like them, NCRT has published its own core teaching skills, that is in 1982. It includes 19 skills, that is writing instructional objectives, right from writing instructional objectives to organizing the content, and then creating set for introducing the lesson, introducing a lesson, then structuring classroom questioning, question delivery and its distribution, response management, explaining, illustrating with examples, using teaching aids, stimulus variation, pacing of the lesson, then promoting pupil participation, use of blackboard, achieving closure of the lesson, giving assignments, evaluating the pupil's progress, diagnosing pupil learning difficulties and taking remedial measures, management of the class. So these are the 19 core skills given by NCERT. So the list of these skills can vary. See, anyone can or any educator can come up with new set of skills. We know that a classroom is a social setting, and there are lots of conversation going on, and there are different. That's a very dynamic atmosphere in a classroom. So you can list many other types of skills other than all these listed skills. Okay, so these are some of the core skills given by NCERT. Okay, fine. So that is all about micro teaching.